Hello, Todd. With Derek Brown, could you kind of describe how different is what he's doing now for you from what he's been doing in the past?
For us, it's all going to depend on he's going to line up in some of the exact same spots that he has before. Over the guard, over the center. What we're just adding another little alignment for him where he goes out and lines up over a tackle at times. But for the most part, his alignments are the same. The biggest change is going to be the technique. They've been in a true attack front here as a 4-3. And we're doing a little. We're still attacking, but it's not exactly 100% penetration. So he's going to line up in the same areas that he has been, except for now we're just changing a couple techniques that we feel we can get a little bit more two gap out of him, and he definitely has that ability.
Coming off the season he had, are there particular things about what you guys want to do with him that may unlock a little more or kind of open some doors for him? You think?
Well, I think right now we all understand, and everybody out there understands he's a great run defender. He's big, strong, he's stout, and he can play all the positions across the board. The biggest thing we're going to start working is the pass rush side of things. He's a big athlete. He's 330 pounds, but he has the ability and speed and explosiveness to get on edges of guards. So that's the biggest thing we're working on. But before that can even happen, we talk about in our room that you have to earn the right to rush the quarterback. So we got to do a good job of stopping the run, and then hopefully we're going to be able to get Derek even better than he is right now versus the pass.
Hey Todd, Mike Day from the Charlotte Observer. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I've seen you for about 5 years.
So, speaking of that timeline, obviously you have the background with the Tampa 2, you have a background with 4-3 under. How different is this operation than stuff you've worked in the past?
Earlier in my career, it's different. It's different than when we were with Coach Kiff and Pete and Gus in Jacksonville and myself in Jacksonville. But obviously going up to Detroit the last couple years, being in the 3-4, learning the 3-4, that was one of the reasons that I decided to go to Detroit is to learn the 3-4 defense to, broaden for myself. But, it's not drastically different. The techniques and stuff are different, but for the most part, football is football. I think we overanalyze 3-4, 4-3, all that kind of stuff. But this system is very similar to what we did in Detroit. So that was a quick learning curve within the EJ system.
Shy Tuttle's got kind of a unique size, I guess, that you can move around. Yep. How do you see him factoring into this? Is he more of a bookend for Derek, or is he somebody you guys can see taking on the middle?
Once again, I think both Derek and Shy both have the ability to play the defensive end spot or the nose spot. When we're in our sub defense, our 4 down, Derek and Shy, along with Henry and the rest of them will all play the same 2 positions. So he's a guy, the reason we were so interested in him is because of his flexibility. The defense that he ran in New Orleans is similar with the alignments and stuff. The techniques and the names are totally different, but we feel he has the flexibility to play inside and outside. That's why we felt it was such a great pickup for our organization.
Thanks, all.
Yep.
Great, thanks, Mike. Let's go to Joe and David, please.
Hey Todd, it's Joe Person with The Athletic. Welcome to Charlotte.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. I wonder if you have anybody up front that is exclusive to the nose, Marquand McCall or anybody else for that.
Yeah, we got Marquand. We have him penciled in as a nose in our base, along with John Pennicini. I had Penny up in Detroit, and he's a true nose guard. So once he gets out there and starts practicing and stuff with us, we feel we have 2 guys that are big, stout players on the inside with both McCall and Penny. Yep. And Bravion Roy is another guy that's a nose in our system. He's really starting to flash and show some things in this gym class, we call it right now, instead of football. In gym class, he's really flashing. I like some of the things that he's doing. So we got 3 guys. It's going to be a really great competition once we get to actually football and training camp.
Also, too, just wanted to follow up. You mentioned your experience in Detroit. What was that like being on Dan's staff as you guys sort of turn things around, and any lessons that you think you'll bring here?
You know, what I really appreciate with Dan, and we got the same thing here with Frank, is you work for a quality person first. That is Dan. Obviously, that was one of the reasons that I was able to come here, because Dan did allow me to get out of my contract to come home and get closer to my family in Jacksonville. But he's a quality man first, and I think that's the number one thing. This is still a people business. I know it's a business, but it's a people business. And Dan really treated our players like men, you know, and he expected them to act like men. And I think Frank does the exact same thing. And the players really enjoy playing for Dan, and our players are really going to enjoy playing for Frank because they're really good people and they treat them like men.
Hey, Coach David Newton, ESPN.com. Good to
All
meet
right,
you.
nice meeting you.
I wanted to say, I've watched the 3-4 evolve a little bit, but what are you looking for in an end that may be different than what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah, you know, back in the day, you know, the Pittsburgh stuff, when Dom Capers was down there, I think Moby Dick was still a minnow when Dom was at Pittsburgh. But it's a situation, it's not, 3-4 teams used to be true two-gap across the front, the nose, the four techniques and stuff like that. Well, now we're not that. We're not a two-gap player. We got single gaps and that kind of stuff. But for the defensive end, what we're looking for is somebody that is big and strong and long, who can play square to the line of scrimmage. That's the biggest key with our package. All three guys across the front, when we're in our four down, our two guys across the front, they have to be able to play square and knock people back. And I think we got that with some of the guys that we got here. You can't really see it right now because, once again, this gym class that we're in. But at the same time, when we get to training camp, I think there's going to be some really good football players and some guys that can knock back some offensive lines up front.
And they don't have to really be superstar guys there. I mean, it's kind of a role still, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, because once again, usually in the 3-4, your pass rush concepts or your pass rush numbers come from the OLBs, the outside guys. You know, we do want our defensive ends to have some pass rush because we get so much, you know, 5-0 protections and stuff like that where you're going to get man on man. So we still need to be stout and stop the run, but we still have to have the ability to get on a guard and affect the quarterback with our defensive ends.
And you mentioned Dom. What's been his influence on this defense in your career?
You know, Dom and I were together when I was coordinating down in Jacksonville. He was our senior defensive assistant. We split up for a year, and then we went to Detroit, and he was our senior defensive assistant. And then when I come here, he had something to do with that. He called me and said, hey, Gerald's looking for a D-line coach. So Dom and I have become really, really close over the years. Obviously, we both live in Jacksonville. We're building houses about a block and a half from each other here out on Lake Tillery. But Dom has done a lot, and he really helps all of us on defense painting a big picture, how the package should be run. Gerald does a good job at dealing with and learning from Dom. But he's a wise man. He's forgot more football than I'll ever know. So we really respect and care for Dom immensely.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so let's, we gotta wrap up before too long, but let's go to Deshaun and go to Mike after that.
All right.
Coach, good afternoon. This is
Good afternoon.
Deshaun from Channel 9.
Hi.
Hi. I heard you mention that your move to Detroit was in part to learn more about the 3-4. I'm curious what you felt you gained there that's informing your approach now.
Well, I think a lot of it is, you know, I was brought up in a 4-3 in base and in sub. So once I had an opportunity to go up there and work with Dan and AG, it was the ability just to learn more, that if anything ever happens in the future, you have flexibility within your package. I think our job in the National Football League is to run the system that matches your players. And if you have more background with different systems, excuse me, I think you can put, wherever you go, you can put that roster's players in position to make plays. So that was the biggest thing, is I wanted to learn, if you go to a 3-4 team, you know, how does that defense put together, and how can we put the players in the best position, you know, regardless of the defensive scheme, 4-3 or 3-4.
I wanted to ask you a couple questions. First one I had was, how much do you and Campen talk about last year's game, Christmas Eve? I know that probably wasn't a great memory, but what did you see from the offensive offensive line in that game and the rushing attack?
Well, I think I'm still feeling that game. And we were feeling pretty good about ourselves when we came into Charlotte, and we didn't end very well. But no, Camp and I have talked. I thought they were a real physical group up front. You know, I'm sure they ran more than 5 different runs, but there was only about 3 runs in that game where we couldn't stop them, period. You know, and no matter how many guys we put in the box, what we wanted to do, not only the offensive line, but the wide receivers block well, you know, if you start getting into your 8-man rotations and stuff. But I've talked to Camp quite a bit, you know, especially about, you know, what they were looking for against our defense up there, and just trying to learn and grow. Both Camp and I talk a lot, and we're just both trying to learn and grow from each other so we can put both of our players in better position.
You brought up Bravion Roy earlier. You worked with guys like Roy Miller before. How much
Yeah.
does having that kind of, you know, that low center of gravity at that nose tackle position or the one technique kind of help you in a way?
Well, you know, down in there, things happen quick. And, you know, they're trying to get, obviously, movement and disruption in the middle of our defense. So, you know, a guy that may be a little bit shorter, but he's stout and explosive, he's able to sit in there versus the double teams and hold the point. So I think that's important, you know, not only just the pad level and that kind of stuff, but if you have a wrestling background, I'm not sure if Bravion does, but you understand leverage and how to be able to lean and feel pressure and stuff, and that's very important in our package. And Bravion is doing that, obviously, along with McCall and Penn. Yep.
Mike, thanks. We'll finish off there. Coach Wash, appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Enjoy your Memorial weekend.